15 live Q&A here at Yahoo every Friday for the rest of the season, 4 p.m. Eastern. You know the drill. We're 15 weeks into this thing. If you didn't tune in before, you're not tuning in now, but most likely you've been tuning in all season long as we've done it every single week. It is, of course, week 15. Some of you have buys and are more focused on optimizing your bench for the fantasy playoffs. Some of you are debating whether to start the defense 7 or 8 on the week. Marginal point differences that even with an infinite amount of time, we'd never figure it out right. But we can still try to pick the best one. Nonetheless, the fantasy playoffs are underway. Apologies to everyone who had to play Kyle Pitts last night. The worst part about it also is that when and if Drake London comes back, Kyle Pitts will go right back to probably being unusable for fantasy as opposed to blowing up against the world. Not to mention Kirk Cousins, wild splits. That's the only reason I mentioned him as a streamer. Oh, I'm John Daigle of Establish the Run, by the way. I should always start with that. I even mentioned Kirk Cousins as a streamer in the Establish the Run waiver wire column only because regardless of what he's done all year, last year against the Bucs, remember, over 700 yards and 9 touchdowns against the Bucs, no picks. Wild. And then last night, again, regardless of what Cousins has done all year long, when he plays the Bucs, Raheem Morris just has Todd Bowles' number. They just know exactly how to beat him. So if you played Pitts, sorry. If you had Pitts, congratulations, you already won the week. Pitts and Seattle's defense, as they train wreck Phillip Rivers, are going to be the 2 highest scorers of week 15. Not to mention that, at least for Kyle Pitts and tight ends moving on, it is a pretty deep week. But even in my rankings that established the run, I only had the obvious guys: George Kittle, Harold Fannin, Brock Bowers, and Trey McBride ranked over Kyle Pitts. Was just a obvious spot to start him. Unfortunately, in my Chicago Media League, 12-team league that all of us in the industry here in Chicago play, including some Yahoo folks, unfortunately, Pat Fitzmaurice of Fantasy Pros, good friend of all of us at Yahoo, he had Kyle Pitts. So I'm staring down the barrel of a 50 burger already and probably losing in the first round of the playoffs, which is very unfortunate. But that's enough of my spiel. Let's get to your questions. Doug W., who is here every single week, asks, if Josh Jacobs sits, do I play Wilson over Hampton or Marks? 1, I don't think Josh Jacobs is going to sit. And 2, no. I'd play Woody Marks over him. In order, you would play them Josh Jacobs because it's such an important game. The Packers are still fighting to match the Bears atop the NFC. So quite easily, Josh Jacobs, then Woody Marks, then Hampton, who is in a committee with Kamani Vidal for the foreseeable future. So just another backfield to hate starting, but you might have to, like Seattle's backfield. No rhyme or reason any week to play either of them, but you probably have them on your roster, so you maybe have to. And then if Jacobs sits, Woody Marks' matchup is too good to bench him over Emmanuel Wilson. So quite easily, I'd play Marks over Emmanuel Wilson. Broncos allowing literally the league's fewest yards before contact per attempt, shut down in the running game. Although I do have faith in Jordan Love and the passing game. Maybe we'll get into those splits later. But for Woody Marks, I mean, you never bench him in this spot. And I have my doubts Texans can actually run the ball. I think they're a terrible running team. But the last 4 games, 18, 16, 19, 26 carries for Woody Marks. The Cardinals have allowed 80 yards from scrimmage and 1 touchdown to 5 consecutive RB1s. You don't even think twice about it. You just start Marks. Ricky Pearsall or Chris Rodriguez, Blink a Shock asks, very easily, Chris Rodriguez if he plays. If not, I'd still start Jacory Croskey-Merritt. The Giants are they are literally bottom 2 in yards before and after contact, the perfect combination. A team that can't reach the running back when he gets the ball and then can't tackle him when he has the ball after the line of scrimmage. Not to mention they're allowing the highest success rate in the league on the ground. So the Giants are just the perfect matchup for any opposing running back, Chris Rodriguez especially. So very easily, Chris Rodriguez, if he plays over Ricky Pearsall. Having said that, if you are desperate, I do think Ricky Pearsall is in a great spot. The Niners have the second highest team total of the week, 28.5. The Titans' offense, as we know, has been dreadful all year. But the key for the 49ers in this game is the Titans' defense has been miserable the last month. They've basically just given up on the season and are trying to get to the end of the year. Like, I can give you all their stats. I can tell you in their last 5 games that haven't allowed less than 16.5 fantasy points to any quarterback, even allowing Davis Mills to reach 270 yards. I think the best stat, though, is that Shadur Sanders just threw for 360 and 3 touchdowns. That's how bad the Titans' defense is. Brock Purdy and the Niners are going to put up at least 35 on Sunday. And Pearsall in the 2 games before the bye, when he came back from injury, he was an every down player. He just wasn't getting targets. I think there's enough volume to go around for everyone to have success in that game for the Niners. They're just going to dunk on the Titans all day long. Need a quarterback, Hurts or Purdy? Your insight, please. It still hurts. I know, no pun intended, it hurt on Monday night to see what the Eagles did, but you're not benching Hurts. You're not overthinking that situation. Still leads his own team and carries inside the 5. Still has 4 touchdowns in his range of outcomes. Doesn't seem like Lane Johnson is coming back, which would make me have a lot more faith. Without Lane Johnson in the field, Hurts has averaged 6.5 yards per attempt. We don't have much faith in the passing game. But you're not benching Hurts for the high rushing floor. You have 2 good quarterbacks. You're going to sit a good one no matter what. You're not benching Hurts against the Raiders. Order tight ends and preference of Kincaid, Warren, and Strange. It's Dalton Kincaid over Tyler Warren and Strange. Dalton Kincaid actually leads every tight end in target per route run rate, meaning when he's out there, he's getting a target basically. Also, the Patriots, for as good as their defense has been, they haven't played anyone, and we knew that coming into the season, that they had quite literally the easiest schedule in the entire league, which is why they're running away from everyone. Drake May is the rightful MVP. Their defense is good. They spent the most cap space in free agency on defense, but we don't know how good the Patriots are because they haven't played anyone that matters. They beat the Bills the last time in primetime in Buffalo. Big signature win that single-handedly got Drake May the MVP after Matthew Stafford lost to Seattle and the Rams lost to Seattle. But the Patriots defense really still haven't played anyone but Josh Allen. So I think it's a pretty great spot for Dalton Kincaid and Buffalo's offense. Not to mention that you just can't. I mean, I shouldn't say you can't. You can start Tyler Warner if you want, but Seattle's about to put up 30 points on defense against Phillip Rivers, who shouldn't be out there at all. It's a great story. I can't wait to watch because it's going to be a disaster. It's going to be the biggest mess since the Colts hired Jeff Saturday, who never coached even in high school. Never even coached Pee Wee football at all. And they hired him just for the hell of it because the Colts are a disastrous organization. And that's kind of what led us to sign a 44-year-old grandpa who has a non-zero chance of getting hospitalized on Sunday night. I am very worried about Phillip Rivers' health, and I bet we see multiple quarterbacks in that game. So we're getting off of Tyler Warren and Michael Pittman wherever you can. Thoughts on McConkey's volume? He has the highest floor and basically the only floor among the Chargers pass catchers. We now have over 190 play sample this year without Joe Alt. And that matters because Justin Herbert has been miserable under pressure this year. And the Chargers offense just doesn't have a ceiling without Joe Alt. It's very clear that they've lost that. And so there's only one player that can get there every single week, and that's Ladd McConkey's volume. That's it. We lost Aronde Gadsden. Can't start him. You can't start Keenan Allen. Quentin Johnston was downgraded at practice Friday, is now questionable. So pretty easy to just say it's only Ladd McConkey and that's it. And the running backs, which again are a hot hand. It's just a committee. So it's, again, It is Seattle's backfield. It is Tennessee's backfield. It's just another committee for you to worry about. So it's only Ladd McConkey, and I would start him over Isaiah Likely. I think that's too thin. I like Isaiah Likely this week, as the Bengals are not stopping tight ends at all. But I'm still going to take Ladd McConkey's floor quite easily in full PPR over Likely. I would start, LGM asked, Hampton, Harvey, or Neal. I'm going to take Harvey and Neal. No Kamara. Great spot again against the Panthers for the Saints. Tyler Shuck also quietly adding 6 carries in 3 consecutive games, even though he wasn't a rushing quarterback at all. And I'm going to take RJ Harvey as well over Amari and Hampton. Again, it's a committee. Maybe Hampton gets there, but when the other two are not in committees, because RJ Harvey, the last time we saw him, not only 70% of the Denver's backfield touches, but 26 routes to Tyler Baday's 4. That's elite RB usage. So I'm going to take Harvey and Neal over Hampton because they are every touch running backs in good spots. Let's see. I don't know, Keaton, what this trade is. I don't know who Karen is besides your next door neighbor. Karen for Bowers. I have no idea who Karen is. Kyron. You have Javonte Williams and Harvey. Should I trade Kyron for Bowers? Yeah, that's fair. Win-win trade. You're giving up Kyron in a league where you can still trade, which I guess is fine. Dynasty leagues, I can still trade. But that person is getting a running back they need. You're getting a tight end you need. Not only that, but although the Lions are about to score 42 points, or the Rams are about to score 42 points in the Lions with ease, Kyron Williams is in a committee with Blake Corum, and the Lions' run defense is great. No running back has gone for over 90 yards against the Lions all year. So you don't really want, like, you're going to start Kyron Williams. You're not going to start Blake Corum where you don't have to, but they're a committee, so you just never know. So Kyron's not as sexy as it seems to start. Brock Purdy or Patrick Mahomes? Quite easily Brock Purdy. As I just told you, the Titans defense have fallen apart completely. The lowest points they've had was in the last 2 months is Davis Mills, 16.5. Shadur put up 33. Justin Herbert put up 28. Daniel Jones put up 23. Drake May put up 23. You're starting Brock Purdy everywhere you can. He's my QB5 on the week. Thoughts on Dalton Kincaid versus Pats? Yeah, it's what I mentioned earlier. It could be a shootout. You know, Joey Bosa's back, and I don't know if I mentioned this on last week's show. I think I did. Where without Joey Bosa, the Bills dropped to 31st in yards per attempt allowed, which is what gave me a little more confidence to start T. Higgins and roll out the Bengals and Joe Burrow last week, just because I wasn't scared of the Bills' passing attack without Joey Bosa, because they're not talented. They don't have any athletes who scare you at all, the Bills on defense. And so Joey Bosa is actually super important because he's the only one there who can get pressure. And Joey Bosa's back this week against the Patriots. So I think it's going to be a fun divisional game on the road. Josh Allen has been significantly better, literally a over 15 point per game difference, fantasy points at home compared to on the road. But there's still faith here because the Patriots defense has fallen apart in their front seven entirely without Milton Williams, who was one of the league's best run stoppers. And now in the last couple games without Milton Williams, they're 31st in success rate. I'm expecting a big day for James Cook this week. So yeah, that includes Dalton Kincaid, who continues to be like a low-end tight end 1, middle-of-the-road tight end 1, but it's more of the fact that he's naturally, logically, the Bills' wide receiver 1 because they don't have a wide receiver you trust. Eddie Brock asks, Henderson, Hampton, or Tracy, and then Higgins, Burden. Well, Higgins out, so we're not worrying about that. Burden, Booty, and Pierce. I'm going to go Burden over Booty and Pierce. We're not going to ever use Alec Pierce from Phillip Rivers. And Booty is touchdown or bust, which is fine, but Burden is still getting the opportunity here with Rome Odunze banged up week to week. And then for the running backs, Henderson, Hampton, or Tracy. We saw, of course, Ramondre Stevenson outsnapped, outtouched TreVeyon Henderson. in the first half even of that Monday night game, the last time we saw the Patriots for their bye. So that's worrisome for Henderson. Having said that, the Bills' run defense is still a disaster, and that's how we attack them. So I think I lean Henderson over Hampton slightly. It is tough. It's nitpicking. Like they're both RB3s. So I would go Henderson slightly over Hampton. But that answer would change depending on who you ask. Which defense do I think is the safest week? Saints, Cowboys, Bears. I think Bears are probably the best one against Shedeur Sanders. Not to mention the -20 wind chill. I'm in Chicago. It's going to be -6 flat out, but it's going to be -20 at Soldier Field. It's going to be the coldest game in Bears history. Pretty great situation to attack Shedeur Sanders in. So I like the Bears the best, the turnover machine among that group. Rice or Wan'Dale Robinson? Come on, Jesse. You don't ask that question. You know better than that. Rashee Rice is the wide receiver 3 in points per game, only behind Jackson Smith and Jigba and Puka Nacua since he returned from his suspension. Not to mention that Wan'Dale Robinson has actually been out-targeted by Darius Slayton when they've shared the field together with Jackson Dart. Like, he's their wide receiver 2. Darius Slayton is actually their wide receiver 1. It's just that Slayton has been banged up and the splits are really hard to parse. So, very easily, not even same tier, Rashee Rice. Another tight end question. Isaiah Likely, Warren or Schultz? I'm going to start Likely. I think rankings and projections would probably tell you to start Schultz instead. But as I say on this show every week, you know, you have to ask yourself your own risk tolerance. I don't make these decisions for you. And so if you want to go with the projections, that's fine. I'm okay going with my process and setting it, forgetting it. And if I lose, so be it. I don't care. Like last week, I started Dawson Knox over Aronde Gadsden, and that was right. No projections, no rankings told me to do that. But again, I go with my own risk tolerance, and I don't care. I'll live with my losses quite easily. And so Dalton Schultz is the higher floor, but I would personally start Isaiah Likely if it were my team. It's such a soft matchup for all the Ravens tight ends. Mark Andrews, 110 yards a few weeks ago. The Ravens tight ends over 100 yards. Last week, Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think it was 2 touchdowns. The Bengals are the only team allowing 90 yards per game to tight ends every single week. So very easily Isaiah Likely for me. Flex, Jalen Coker or Samaje Perine? Hell yeah. That's my kind of league. 14 team, no hope in sight. It's Jalen Coker. Saints defense still 26th in pressure rate created, not getting there, getting smoked through the air. Do I have faith in Jalen Coker and Bryce Young? No. But do I think Jalen Coker is a fine start in a game that could perceivably shoot out since Tyler Shuck is carrying his own weight here the last month? Yeah. So I'll take Jalen Coker over Perine. The last couple of weeks, it's still been harder for Perine to get there. He's more of a nuisance to Chase Brown than he is like having standalone value. The past couple games, since he's returned from his high ankle sprain, Chase Brown has still run 51 routes to Perine's 22. The Ravens are allowing the 4th most receiving yards to running backs per week. And that's how Chase Brown has an out. But like Chase Brown, it's been pretty bad for him, honestly, the last couple of weeks. I know he scored 2 touchdowns against the Bills, but like he averaged 2 yards per touch. He just happened to get to the end zone twice. And the last couple of weeks, he's only handled 62% of their backfield touches compared to the 2 games that Perine missed, and Brown handled 90% of the backfield touches. So I'm really worried about Chase Brown, especially in this spot. Seems like a guy who could just knock you out of your playoffs. A lot of tight end questions. Let's see here. 1 running back, 1 tight end. Mark Andrews, Likely, or Theo Johnson. That's going to be Mark Andrews among that group. And then for the running back, Breece Hall, Bam Knight, Devin Neal, Kenneth Walker. It's still Breece Hall. Do I have faith in the Brady Cook offense? No. But I think Breece Hall has the highest touch floor among that group. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet are just in a timeshare. So it's Breece Hall for me, but those are 4 usable options. They're all fine. Likely Ferguson or Gesicki. Ferguson if he plays, otherwise likely. We don't know if Ferguson is going to play. A DNP on Thursday, I believe. We're going to wait for the Friday injury report since they play on Sunday night. I would play likely if Ferguson is out. And I'm just not personally excited about Mike Gesicki at all. Only a 47% route share this past week against the Bills. Maybe the 16.5% target share is sticky since T. Higgins is out again. But the Ravens, since they got fully healthy after the bye, so from week 8 on, haven't allowed double-digit fantasy points or 50 receiving yards to any tight end they've faced. All they do is shut down tight ends. So I'm personally not going to play Mike Gesicki. Again, I know rankings will probably be recency biased and lean towards him suddenly being the option, but I don't believe that at all. Terry McLaurin, Justin Jefferson, or Teteroa McMillan, and I'm still going to go. I'll go Justin Jefferson. Terry McLaurin's in a really good spot, but I'll go Justin Jefferson. Like for all the things happening, the Cowboys, they are still getting beat by outside receivers, and their secondary is still pitiful. Run defense has become amazing. Even Jahmyr Gibbs, 3.5 yards per carry. He just scored 3 touchdowns, so it looked better. But with Quinnen Williams, the run defense has been truly amazing. But through the air, they don't have any talent. They can't stop anyone. TreVeyon Diggs coming back is actually great news for wide receivers because TreVeyon Diggs shouldn't be starting in the NFL. So I'll still take Justin Jefferson and go down with the ship, regardless if that's right or wrong. Who should you start between Kyren Williams, Quinshon Judkins, or Tracy? We're going to take out Tracy from there. He's not close to that. I'll take the game script with Kyren Williams. I don't think it's a good matchup by any means. But again, the Rams have the highest total of the week, 30.5 points. The Lions defense has just fallen apart completely over the last month through the air. Kyren Williams can easily get there on 15 plus touches as an RB2. And so I'm just going to take the indoor environment against a very bad defense and the best offense in the league. And I'm just going to start Kyren Williams and not overthink it. Let's see. If it ends up snowing in New England, thoughts on sitting Drake May for Dak Prescott? No, Charity, no. If last week didn't teach you to ignore weather, I don't know what will. Showers in Jacksonville Colts didn't matter. Snow, Bengals Bills didn't matter. Don't worry about weather. Don't overthink weather. Tyler Warren or Isaiah Likely this week. Again, projections, rankings will say Tyler Warren. I would personally start Isaiah Likely. You can start Tyler Warren if you want. He may have the higher floor, but I'm not. I'll play Jonathan Taylor, and that's as far as it goes. I'm benching, Michael Pittman. I'm benching all my Colts everywhere because they're going to get destroyed. I have negative zero faith in Phillip Rivers and the Colts offense against Seattle. It's that easy. I'm just not making that choice. TreVeyon Williams or TreVeyon Henderson, Kyren Williams, Terry McLaurin, sit TreVeyon Henderson easily. Again, taking the environment for Kyren Williams, and it's a great matchup for Terry McLaurin, targeted at the 6th highest rate among all wide receivers since he returned from injury. The Giants are also one of the worst teams in the league right now at their current states. I think Marcus Mariota is just better than Jaden Daniels anyways, since Daniels continues to play injured. So no, that game it's so bad, the Giants Commanders, that it's going to shoot out. There's going to be a lot of points and a lot of different players are going to get there. So easily Kyren Williams and Terry McLaurin from me in there. One wide receiver, one flex. Olave, Devontae, McLaurin, Warren, Corum, Emmanuel Wilson. Yeah. So if Jacobs misses, Emmanuel Wilson. If not, don't worry about him. Just ignore him entirely. Otherwise, it is Olave and McLaurin for me. Panthers dead last in generating pressure. Again, Tyler Shuck has carried himself well the last 3 games in these softer matchups. So I will go Olave and McLaurin, thinking their floors are higher than Devonta Smith's. especially since A.J. Brown has really demanded targets the last month now, ever since he told his fantasy managers to drop him. Since then, A.J. Brown has been nothing short of a strong wide receiver one that you can't possibly bench. Let's see here. Would I bench Caleb Williams for Jameson Williams? Yeah, I would. I think the ceiling is so high on Jameson Williams that I'm just going to take it in a super flex and not start Caleb Williams instead. Like, if you ignore that Giants game, I know it's really weird that JMO had an egg in the Giants game, but in the 6 games around that, his worst performance is 66 yards and a touchdown. The last couple of weeks, last 2 games, 37% and 29% target share. And now we're talking about the Lions being road dogs indoors, and Dan Campbell knows that. It's a must-win game for the Lions as they also compete with the Lions and Bears atop the NFC and their division. Dan Campbell's not going to punt in this game. They're going to leave the kitchen sink out there. They know what's on the line. So I'm going to take that game script. Jameson Williams is 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in his range of outcomes here. And I think that's higher than Caleb Williams has in the cold against a very good Cleveland pass rush. Pick 2 in PPR, Michael Wilson, McConkey, Olave. It's going to be Wilson and let me look at my rankings for Olave and McConkey. Like, McConkey has the higher floor, but the worst compared to the 2 matchup. I'm more excited about Olave. Let's see here. Yeah. Olave over McConkey. So, for me, it would be Michael Wilson, McConkey. Do I think Michael Wilson can do good? No. I think this is the game where the Cardinals offense struggles really mightily. Texans allowing the fewest passing points per game to opposing quarterbacks. Jacoby Brissett hasn't even been good. He's just been getting there on volume. He's averaging 40-plus attempts per week, but he hasn't thrown more than 2 touchdowns in any of these games because, again, he hasn't really been good. He's just been getting volume. Now he has the toughest matchup possible, and against opposing wide receiver ones, the Texans have allowed the second fewest yards per game weekly. So I'm really worried about Michael Wilson, but he's been so good the last 3 weeks. It's one of those situations for the playoffs. You don't overthink it. You close your eyes and you say, do something. Please help me out. Despite the matchup, because he's been so good. Chris Rodriguez or Luther Burden? It's Chris Rodriguez for sure. Again, the matchup is so good against the Giants. Until the Commanders trailed 31-0 on their final drive, Rodriguez outtouched Jacory Croskey-Merritt 7-2. Croskey-Merritt was an afterthought. We're gonna get 20 healthy carries for Chris Rodriguez if they if they let him go. Not if they let him go, if he plays. So I like Chris Rodriguez a lot this week. Tracy Hampton or Devin Neal? I like Devin Neal. Just getting every single touch in a very good matchup. Burrow in the cold or May in the snow? I'm going to go May over Burrow quite easily, too. You get the rushing floor with May, and it's not a good matchup for Burrow. The Bengals, remember, that game on Thanksgiving you have to throw out entirely because the Ravens had 5 turnovers, 4 which came in the 20s. So they either were in scoring position to push the Bengals and then turn the ball over, or gave the Bengals less than 20 yards to score with ease. And even then, the Bengals couldn't score. They kicked 6 field goals. But the point is, because of all those turnovers, the Bengals ran 80 plays. They're not going to run 80 plays again in this game. And without T. Higgins, we're kind of just dropping the overall ceiling of the offense because Andre Yoshivas and Mitchell Tinsley can't be as good as T. Higgins. And so I think Burrow's closer to a fringe QB1, whereas Drake May, he's the QB4 in points per game. He's been nothing but excellent all year long. So I don't want to overthink that. Pick 2, Chris Rodriguez, Jaden Reed, Kareem Hunt, Khalil Shakur, AD. Yeah, just a bunch of bums. Okay. Chris Rodriguez for sure. And then I think Shakir. Maybe Brady Cook drags along AD Mitchell better than Shakir. But gosh, I just can't trust Brady Cook. So I'll go Chris Rodriguez and Shakir over Reed and AD Mitchell. Reed is also hard because last week they used a tight rotation only between Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Jaden Reed. And I do have faith in the Packers offense. Like, the Broncos lead the league in man coverage because they have the kind of talent they can put in their secondary and glue to opposing wide receivers. They don't need to play zone coverage. And since Christian Watson came back in week 8, Jordan Love is leading the league in EPA per drop back against man coverage, 10 touchdowns, 0 picks as well. I actually have a lot of faith in the Packers offense. I think they can push the Broncos. We've also seen the Broncos get into wacky game scripts all year long. The Giants forced their hand. Remember, they put up 30 points on the road in Denver. The Cowboys, garbage timed, but the Broncos just dunked all over the Cowboys. Overtime a couple weeks ago against the Commanders. Marcus Mariota, 3 for 290 yards and 2 touchdowns. When pushing the Broncos and getting to like 40-point game scripts that help us out, it always comes down to the opposing quarterback being able to beat the Broncos defense. I think Jordan Love and Christian Watson can beat the Broncos defense, honestly. So I like the Packers offense a lot more than others. Chase Brown, Devin Neal, Chuba Hubbard, or Chris Rodriguez. Pick 2. I think it's Chase Brown and Chris Rodriguez. Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle are just tough because it's like the Chargers. It's a full-blown hot hand timeshare that's not predictable week to week. And so Hubbard could have 20 touches and 100 yards, but it also would not be shocking if it 8 touches and 20 yards at all because Rico Dowdle was the better player. And those situations are just really hard to start when you have better options. So I'm trying to stay away from Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle wherever I can. Lisa B, Jaden Reed, Rico Dowdle, or Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones for me, full PPR especially, just because you're getting the receiving outs against the Cowboys. JDS, Dak's going to outscore May. No, Dak's not going to outscore May at all. Brian Flores has done nothing but put every good quarterback into a ringer over the last month. His Vikings defense is not one to mess with, as they are absolutely still playing for their coaches right now. And that includes, let's see here, Jaden Daniels is 9 of 20 for 3.9 yards per attempt last week. Sam Darnold, an MVP favorite just a few weeks back, 4.9 yards per attempt. Jordan Love, 6.5 yards per attempt. They kept Caleb Williams to 10 fantasy points. Lamar Jackson was 17 of 29. You're not doing anything on this Vikings secondary. Theo Johnson or Isaiah Likely, that's Theo Johnson. Isaiah Likely is a great play, but I think that starts to get a little thinner. Cowboys or Patriots defense? It's Cowboys. I'm not going to play the Patriots against the Bills. Would you start Allen Kincaid or May Henry? Allen Kincaid for sure. You get the rushing outs. Not to mention that I'm still worried about Henry in general. How should we value Pitts versus Bowers in the fantasy playoffs? I really think Pitts, as he showed us with Drake London, is not even a tight end 1 when Drake London plays. And so if Drake London were to return, I would worry about Kyle Pitts for sure. Last night doesn't affect that at all. So I would want Brock Bowers over Pitts. But that's the thing. The Falcons are basically out of it at 5-9. So is Drake London returning? He's not on IR. Is he going to return? He didn't practice. We'll at least know next week because the Falcons now have 10 days for their next game. I think this is the break they've been waiting for to hopefully get Drake London back at practice. If he's still DNP next week, then we're pretty much in drop territory for Drake London because we don't think he'll come back. If he can't come back after 10 days rest and not being put on IR, I can't imagine using him then in week 17 in his first game back. Drop Goddard for Juwan Johnson. Yeah, drop Goddard a month ago. Kyron Williams or Jacoby Myers. I'm still going to take Kyron Williams there. Again, it's not good, but the environment is so good. Like a 30.5-point team total. My word. And again, the Lions defense is dreadful. They've been miserable. RJ Harvey is my running back. I need an RB2 between Breece Hall, Devin Neal, or Kenneth Walker. I think it's Breece Hall for the matchup. We're nitpicking between, a few good options. Kenneth Walker is the only one among those three who is in a committee. I'm double checking my rankings, but I'm pretty sure I have Breece Hall highest. Neal, yep, and Walker, yep, Breece Hall. So, all right, Breece Hall is the answer. Gainwell, Woody, or Kenneth? Oh, Woody Marks easily. Don't even think about that. Jaws, Woody Marks over Kenneth Gainwell and Kenneth Walker easily. Pick one: Michael Wilson, Tet, or McLaurin. Again, do I have faith Michael Wilson will do good? No. But he's been so good, I'm not going to bench him. I still think he's a low-end wide receiver 1 this week. So I'm going to start Michael Wilson. Caleb Peterson, Kyron, Woody, Brian Thomas. We're not going to count Tracy. So Kyron, Woody. I think it's Woody Marks. Yeah, I think the matchup, Nick Chubb being out, I believe. I think in general, I think that all helps Woody Marks. So again, he just had 26 carries. Yeah, so I think it's Woody Marks. That's who I'd start. Kyron or Jefferson in the flex. I think it's Kyron Williams for me, just to get a part of that, just to get exposure towards the highest ceiling offense in the league this week. Deebo Samuel has a good matchup against the Giants. Should we start him? Probably not. You probably have better options. Deebo also, we don't know if he's going to play. He has an illness. He was questionable today. So you certainly can based on your other options. He's more of a wide receiver 3 for me. Tight end premium, need one running back and one flex. Chris Rodriguez, Hampton, Vidal, Singletary, Darren Waller. Rodriguez for sure. I'm holding Waller for next week's match because the Bengals. I'm not going to start Waller this week, though, against the Steelers. So I think it'd be Rodriguez and Hampton for me. Jameson Williams or Chase Brown. Easily Jameson Williams. We're going to chase that ceiling. Very worried about Chase Brown, especially in this matchup, but moving forward in particular. Burrow, May, or Lamar. Lamar actually, after, he played that game. He had 10 days rest before he played the Steelers this past week, and he hit his highest rushing yards and yards per carry, and he scored multiple touchdowns for the first time before he was injured. Well, no, he threw for 4 touchdowns against Miami when he came back in week 9. But it was his highest rushing yards and yards per carry, his most efficient outing since before his injury. So I think we're good. I think we're in the clear. Easy matchup. I would start Lamar over May and Burrow. Jalen Warren, Hampton, or Chris Rodriguez. I think it's Jalen Warren against this Dolphins front 7. Rodriguez is very close, but I guess I'd start Jalen Warren over Chris Rodriguez. But it's close. Henderson or Harvey, I'd just take the every touchback at RJ Harvey over TreVeyon Henderson just because it's going to be a timeshare with Ramondre Stevenson based on their last game before the bye. Is it worth picking up Sutton or Metcalf as wide receiver fill-in? I mean, I don't know. Lisa B, who you join every week, who your other receivers you're filling in for in. Sutton, definitely. I have a lot of faith in Sutton this week, but Metcalf I really don't trust. Last week, 140 yards against the Ravens, But then you look at what the Ravens allowed to wide receiver ones the last 3 games. They're not allowing great passing yardage against them since they got healthy week 8 on. They've allowed only 5 touchdowns, which is the fewest in the league in that time since week 8. And they're 4th in success rate through the air. They've been amazing. But they're still allowing production to wide receiver ones, including DK Metcalf, 140 yards. Jamar Chase a couple weeks on Thanksgiving, 110 yards. John Mechie had 6 catches for 65 yards and a touchdown as well before that. And so I don't trust Metcalf at all since he had 5 consecutive games with single-digit fantasy points before that. I think it was just a matchup he did well with. So I'd rather have Sutton. Jackson Dart or Brock Purdy? I will take Brock Purdy. No questions about Brock Purdy's ceiling or floor here. Super safe. 5 touchdowns in his range of outcomes. Whereas Jackson Dart, if he runs, may have a higher ceiling. And the fact I'm saying may tells you to start Brock Purdy because we just don't know. But before the bye, not only did they not let Jackson Dart run, he came back from his concussion, right? Multi-game absence. And they gave him no design carries. But also, they didn't let him throw the ball. They basically took him out of the game. Only 23 pass attempts. So we'd have to see an entire change in philosophy and how to treat Jackson Dart from the coaching staff and Mike Kafka for Dart to match Brock Purdy. And that's just too many ifs. Why even put ourselves in that situation? So just start Brock Purdy. Billy Shakes the GOAT. The GOAT himself asks, what's my favorite thought of sports memorabilia that I'd own? Thank you for mixing it up rather than the running back committee start sits that I hate to answer that we're here for. It's okay. But my favorite sports memorabilia that I own is, as a former Aggie, Gig'em, I went to the Cotton Bowl against Oklahoma where Johnny Manziel beat the Sooners single-handedly in Cowboy Stadium. And I still have the Cotton Bowl ticket lower bowl laminated from that game. Was it 2012? I can't remember when it was. Long time ago. But I still have the Johnny Manziel Cotton Bowl championship game laminated in my home. So that's my favorite piece of sports memorabilia. I also own a few balls from Wrigley Field. Like, I've gotten balls from signature games that players have used, because in the Authentic store, they sell game used balls. And so I own quite a few things from Wrigley Field as well, because I go to games often with a friend of the show, our own Evan Silva of Establish the Run, who's one of my best friends. All right. Kenneth Walker, Aaron Jones, Kenneth Gainwell, more committee questions. I think it's Aaron Jones in PPR. And Scott says full PPR here. So Aaron Jones for the pass catching, which I think is better than Walker and Gainwell. Would you start Fannin over Zay? Oh, not even close. Bengals are actually allowing the 4th fewest points per game to opposing wide receivers. For all their flaws, all the production the Bengals allow are strictly to running backs and tight ends. Only one wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, has reached 100 yards against the Bengals all year long. All they do is shut down wide receivers. So, like, Fannin, easily. Not even a question over Zay Flowers. And Chris Rodriguez, not even a question over Kyle Monangai. Danny Gutierrez, need one. Debo, Franklin, Reed, and Slayton. I think I'll say Franklin because Pat Bryant's out, and he's the one who previously made Franklin droppable the last couple of weeks. So I'll go Franklin, thinking we could get a sneaky shootout in Denver. But if you look at projections and rankings, so like it depends on your own risk aversity. I always mention this. So if you want to be safe, if you want the better start, Debo Samuel. If you're asking me, and if it were my team, I would start Troy Franklin. But Debo Samuel's the better start, and you should do that because, again, I know my own risk tolerance. I play things differently. So you should ask yourself what you're comfortable with. Debo Samuel has the higher floor. Pick 4. Good grief. Why don't I set your lineup for you, Joe? Pick 4. Superflex. Bench the quarterback. How about that? Yeah. I'll go Olave, Brown, Williams, and Henderson. Would I start Lawrence over Dart as my QB2? I would not. But we are talking about nitpicking. Like they're all super duper close. I would start Dart personally. But it's really close. Seattle or Denver? Come on, Lisa. If you got Seattle, imagine benching Seattle. Just ask yourself that. How would I feel about myself? Could I look my partner in the mirror and say, I bench Seattle's defense? No, you could not live with yourself. You'd wake up in despair, take an edible, fold yourself in the mattress, and hate your life. So no, quite easily start Seattle's defense every single week. Lots of tight ends stuff. Everyone just wants a tight end because every tight end's available on the waiver wire. So among this group, PH, since you have your pick of the litter, I think I'd start Theo Johnson here among this big group. Harold Fannin easily, Cardi over Tyler Warren. Not even a question. Flex 1, Luther Burden, Pearsall, or Keenan. I'm going to get in on the Niners. Like I have, my toughest one is Ricky Pearsall, Michael Pittman, or Jaden Higgins. I have Pearsall or Jaden Higgins in a lot of spot. And logically, the answer should be Jaden Higgins. I'm going to get in on Pearsall. I sneakily like Pearsall a lot this week. So I can take the L as well if Pearsall gets 0. That's fine by me. I'm just going to live and die with my own process. So I would start Pearsall over Burden and Keenan this week. Should I flex Hampton, Genty, or Ladd McConkey? Genty for me. You get the pass catching floor as they've just eliminated every running back besides him as well. Not to mention that without Jalen Carter, who already got ruled out, and they're 3 games without him this year, the Eagles have allowed over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns to the Cowboys backfield in week 1, over 150 yards and 3 touchdowns to the Giants backfield in week 6, and this past game to Amari and Hampton, Kamadi Badal, 170 combined yards and a touchdown. So lots of faith for Ashton Genty here. Caleb or Herbert half hand. Yeah, both miserable spots too. I think Caleb over Herbert. I think it's a better spot for Herbert. Caleb. We saw how limited Justin Herbert was with the hand last week. And again, even with 2 hands, he was averaging 6.5 yards per attempt, or 5.5 yards per attempt without Joe Alt on the field. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, just not a player you want to start. Mike Evans or JMO rest of season? Probably Mike Evans. They got the Panthers still twice, so I'm going to say Mike Evans. I like both of them. And finally, was there one last one before I get out of here? Here you go. I traded Fannin. Well, Caleb, I don't want to judge you for the last question. Fannin in my first for Kittle in my second, and my second back. Fannin in my first for Kittle and a second. Did I make a playoff run? Did I screw up? No, because I think it's a wash. I think Kittle, Fannin the rest of the way is truly just a wash. They're clearly just done. The Browns are with David Njoku. He's a free agent too. It's all Harold Fannin from here on out. And with Shadur Sanders under center, Fannin leads the Browns 21 targets to Jerry Jeudy's 12. Fannon's a top 5 tight end easily the rest of the way. And so Fannin, Kittle, all nothing but great things to say about both. With that being said, that's all the questions for this week, week 15. I'm cheering for all of you. Good luck. And if you're back next week, that means you're on to week 16, or you like my voice. So you're probably on to week 16, let's be honest. But come back anyways if you get eliminated. I hope that's not the case. And as always, until then, good luck this week and be a little bit kinder than what's required. At John Daigle on Twitter and Establish a Run. Of course, like this stream. Let the people at Yahoo know that we're having a great time together every Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Eastern. See you next time.